a very interesting coffee shelter right there, and these amazing women all came out during their hectic days to get some chizuk from each other and give each other chizuk. We all went around and shared the different things that give us chizuk when things are hard. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. The shiur is dedicated in schus and merit of the safety and protection of all of the our courageous brothers and sisters on the front lines, all of the injured. We read out the names of everyone, but we had in mind every single one of our brothers and sisters who need our tefillos. The learning today and the chizuk is going to be in merit of them. Thank you for joining. And the shiur today is on Parshas Bereishit. Do I have black over my face?
No, okay. Beautiful.
The shiur today is on Parshas Bereishit. The source sheets did not print. Maybe my husband will manage to make the printer work, but I will tell you the sources. Parshas Bereishit should be like a one-year course because they're just for the Kabbalah and Chassidus that we get from this week's Parsha are endless. It's very hard to choose what specifically to focus on. I'm going to focus a little bit on something that I think will help us give us chizuk for this time. So the parsha, first of all, there's two very fundamental, the first two Rashis in this week's parsha are very fundamental ideas, especially focusing on the question of the beginning of the Torah, that the Torah begins with Bereishit, the creation of the world, and with the letter Bet and not the letter Aleph. So the first Rashi that we have in the Torah is the question of Lama Pasach, why did the Torah begin with this Bereishit bar, with the creation of the world, and not with the first mitzvah? If the Torah is Milashon Hora, the Torah is a guidebook for our life, telling us instructions of how we can live our life. God created you, here's how to live your life. It's Milashon Hora, it's full of instructions. Why do we need to know all of the history, right? It's not a history book. We learned that if the Torah was a history book, it would be a terrible history book, like so bad, because it spends like one chapter on like 1,000 years of history and then like 5 chapters on one person's life, and we're like, what happened to those 40 years? And like it'll be like 40 years in one day. So it's very all over the place. As a history book, it's missing tons. Thank you so much, Dora. Bereishit, it's missing there's so many gaps in the history, but the Torah is not a history book. The Torah is to give us instruction. So the first question is that Rashi brings down is Amar Rabbi Shmuel, why did the Torah start with Bereishit? It should have started with what's the first mitzvah? Rosh Chodesh, HaChodesh Zelachem, which is way later after the freeing of Mitzvah. That's the first mitzvah that we got. If the Torah is about the mitzvahs that we do, we should have began the Torah way later on in Shemos with the first mitzvah that we got, which is HaChodesh Zelachem, establishing the months according to the moon, right? And Rashi says, Ella, why did the Torah begin here? Literally, it's connected. I have to share this because it's so connected to this, what's happening right now. This is the first Rashi in the Torah of Bereishit. So why did Hashem do it? It's Ella mechod shehim metzvayshon b'aser umat tam pasach b'Bereishit. And why did he begin with Bereishit? Mishum koach ma'asav higid l'amo l'seis lam nachas kol. Rashi quotes from Tehillim and says, because koach ma'asav higid l'amo, Hashem shared with us the power of his ma'asim, of his creation of the world. L'seis lehem nachas goim. So we have an answer to the goim. This is a pasuk from Tehillim that says that Hashem told us that later on this is going to happen. And then Rashi continues, when the nations of the world come to Bnei Israel and say, L'Yisrael, listim atem, you're thieves, shekavashtem artz shivas hagom, that you took this land from us, who gave you the right to decide that this is your land, and you have a right to it, to inherit it. Whenever you go into Golos, it's your land. Who told you that it's your land? Where do you get the right to do that? Therefore, it says, what do we tell them? The whole world belongs to Hashem. We see in the Torah that God created the whole world. He's the one who created it. Hashem creates it and gives the land to whoever he sees fit. He created it originally. He originally created it and gave it to them, to the other nations, from the 7 nations. And then in the Torah Hashem says, I'm going to take it from them and give it to you, and it's going to be your inheritance forever. So here's the answer. It says, if you want to know because imagine we didn't have the Torah here. Imagine we never saw an accounting in the Torah with mass revelation, a history book set in front of millions and millions of people. It never said that God created the world. It never said that Hashem is the one who promised the land to Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, to our descendants, right? We would just be like, you're making it up. So here we have our proof. There's obviously a lot more depth in this, like who said they believe in the Torah, etc. But this is the first Rashi that tells us our answer to the Umas Olim. And the Rebbe says actually the Umas Olim are also it's also the answer to the non-Jew within us that says, like, who says that we have a right to conquer, to become a part of Eretz Yisrael? If we have any voice inside of us that says, like, what do you have a right to Eretz Yisrael? Who says that you should belong here? Who said that you belong in this land, right? Who said that you feel connected to this land? What's your right? You live somewhere else, right? What's your right to have to Eretz Yisrael? What's your connection? If anyone ever doubts it, you should say, well, Hashem is the one who created the world, and he decided that it belongs to us, and it's part of it's connected to our soul. It's Hashem's decision to create the world, and it belongs to him, and he gave it to us and promised us that it's our inheritance forever.
Well, that's why to knock down any single hole in controversy that we took the land from
right.
The Palestinians, because but even the Jew, there are a lot
Yeah.
of goyim that know
Yeah.
that this
And a
is
lot of the history, so all of the history of the world, there's a whole sikha already. We could spend an entire class talking about the sikha to be on dissecting this and like the gap between whatever, why there's the whole from creation until we got the land, why that was there. That's a whole other tangent, but it's very fascinating, and I could link it if anyone's interested. I can link the sikha, but it's very long. The second, so that's the first Rashi in the Torah. The second Rashi in the Torah is Bereishit bara. It focuses more on the question of the word Bereishit, the Torah beginning with the word Bereishit. It's a very unusual word grammatically. It makes no sense. It means Bereishit means in the beginning of something. So in the beginning of what? Bara Elokim es hashamayim es haaretz. In the beginning of something, Hashem created the heavens and earth. Grammatically, Rashi says it would have made sense to say Barishona or Batchila, in the beginning of all of creation, but in the beginning, Berishona, first Hashem created the heaven and earth. But here it's Bereishit, in the beginning of something. So from there, Rashi says you can't even explain this according to Pshat. You have to look at the Medrash, and the Medrash teaches us that Bereishis actually is telling us that for Rashis, Beis Rashis, for something that is called Rashis, and the base tells us that there's two things for Beis Rashis, for two things that are called Rashis, Hashem created all of the heavens and the earth. Also, at that beginning of, there was no time yet. The concept of time was created only after. So in the beginning of everything, in the beginning before the concept of time, the beginning before time was even a thought, Hashem created all of the heavens and earth for Rashis, for two things that are called Rashis. And Rashi brings down from the Medrash that says, he brings down from Bereishis Rabbah, B'shvil Torah shenikras Rashis, that for two things Hashem created the entire world, for the Torah that's called Rashis, and for Bnei Yisrael that are called Rashis. And he brings Psukim to say that the Torah called Rashis Darko and Mishlei, and the Bnei Yisrael are called Rashis Fuato and Yirmiyahu. And then the Rashi continues and many other grammatical ways to explain why you can't really explain it that way, and I skipped out that part. So again, this is one of the very empowering Rashis for me, to teach us that often we feel like stunted by nature. And Hashem is saying, I'm the one who created nature in the world. All the times we feel like we want to do things, but people are telling us it's not possible. Naturally, we don't have the means to do it. Financially, there's so many limitations in the world. And Hashem says, just remember that the reason I created the world is for Bnei Israel and the Torah. And the Chachamim in the Gemara go back and forth and say, who was it for? What was first? What was Allah ben Machshava first? What was Hashem's first plan? Was it for Torah, and then He needed people to keep the Torah, so then we were created? Or was it for the Jewish people to connect to Him, and then we needed the Torah to connect to Hashem? And the Gemara says it's for both equally, that it's for Bnei Israel to keep the Torah. And that's why Hashem created the entire world, because Hashem wanted to have a connection. And if you go into the Zohar, into the deepest reason why Hashem made the world to begin with, it's because Hashem said lo tov, not to be alone, to say I'm the only being, and there's angels serving me, right? But they have no free choice. I want an other besides me to connect with, that has free choice to connect with me. I wanted a connection with something that sees itself as completely other, with a being that has free choice, that has darkness, and that has and through the darkness chooses to connect with me and to see the light and to see the glimpses of me. And so to do that, Hashem said, well, we need a world, and we need the Torah, because the Torah is going to be the instruction book and the way that we connect. Because I'm an infinite being, Hashem is infinity, but they are limited. How are we going to connect? And Hashem is going to create a Torah which is infinite and can connect to the finite. And so Hashem created the entire world for Bnei Yisrael to keep the Torah, to connect to Hashem. So the whole intention of everything in the world is only for us to keep the Torah. And literally the Gemara says that Istakel Boraisam Bar Ola. How did Hashem know what to make in the world? How did He decide to make like mountains and trees and not like, just like a big giant playground? And it says that Hashem looked in the Torah and saw what the mitzvahs are in the Torah, and based on all the things that it says in the Torah, Hashem created the world, right? If it says that we need to keep kosher, there has to be all the animals. If it says that we need to, do sukkahs, there has to be all the plants. If it says we can't eat these foods, then we have to create the foods that we can eat, etc. and etc. So it says that the Torah is the blueprint of how Hashem decided to create the world. And by having that in mind, my husband's amazing, just brought the sources. By having that in mind, it helps us. It gives us this chizuk to know that nature, when it seems like nature is getting in our way from us keeping the Torah, from us connecting to Hashem, from doing good things, from creating these campaigns to raise. Yes. Okay, so that was a tangent. Thank you so much. So Hashem looked in the world, created the world, and the intention telling us that the whole world is created for Bnei Yisrael and the Torah is to remind us that if you feel like something is impossible, Hashem is reminding us and saying that I only created nature for you to serve the Torah. So if it comes in your way, it's going to part itself. Like if you come in front of an ocean, and that's the source for the Rashi where Hashem says, you're in front of the ocean, but I told you to go get the Torah, so just keep walking. Because I created an ocean, but it was there to serve you. So if it's in your way, it's going to split. And the Gemara tells us the Medrash tells us there was a t'nai, a condition with the ocean that when it sees us coming together, the Torah has to split because it was only created in order to serve us. We just have to focus on doing what we need to do right now. Right, Am Yisrael is going through so much. We have to focus, even if it seems like, how will I have the time? I'm struggling with my family. I'm like looking at Daniela, your daughter, and I'm like, how she has like 6 kids at home, 5 kids at home, and she's doing all these campaigns to help people. But we don't have to focus on like the limitations of nature. We have to focus on fulfilling our mission in the world, bringing more light into the world, and let nature part itself for us. Let nature conspire, like Paulo Coelho said it beautifully in The Alchemist, right? Like when you are seeking to like find your mission or your purpose and treasure, the entire world will conspire to help you find it. Like all of nature will conspire and help you find the whole world will fold for you. It will help you in your mission. You just have to be focused on your mission and not focused on the stumbling blocks, and let them fall away for you. Let everything serve you and help you instead of the opposite. Okay, so now going into that was back to Bereishit, the word of Bereishit, Beis Reishis, for Bnei Israel and for the Torah, to keep the Torah, the world is created for Bnei Israel to keep the Torah, for these two things. Now we're going into this concept throughout this parsha on the Chumash of Bereishit. Bereishit means, it's very fascinating to like focus just on the word Bereishit. You can go on forever, but I brought for you the counting. I'm going to read it to you of the whole Chumash. Of the very first few psukim, but we have something very, very fascinating that the Zohar speaks about, that says that there is this light, on the first pasuk where the Hashem created the world with this 10 utterances, the 10 mamarim that Hashem created the world. There's actually a teaching of Rabbi Nachman that I heard that's beautiful, that says Bereishit could also be said as Shir Av, that a lot of times we think that Hashem spoke the world into being through 10 utterances, like let there be light, like a booming voice. But he says that it was a shir. Hashem sings the world into creation. That Hashem sang it and continues to sing it. And the 6 days of creation were not something that happened once and then from now on the world exists on its own. It doesn't say ki b'sheishis yamim, in the 6 days. It says sheishis yamim. And that's also a grammatical error, a grammatical specification, that when the grammatical issue, that the Torah, if it said in 6 days Hashem made the world and then now he rested and that's it, the world exists, it would have said in b'sheishis yamim, but we say ki sheishet yamim because it's not something that happened in 6 days once. It happens continuously. Every 6 days Hashem creates the world from anew and continues to create the world through that song of the 10 utterances. So with the shir of Av, through a father singing the world into creation, through the letters of Hashem's, the Aleph Beis, Hashem creates the world and speaks the world into existence. And something to focus on for now, a message we can take, is that our reality is shaped the same way that the world we live in is shaped by the words Hashem speaks into existence. All of our reality is shaped by the words that we choose to use. So if we look at this perspective now with words of fear, of chaos, of panic, of using the words, like if looking at certain news stories that are covering this in a certain way, right, that's going to shape their reality if they're covering the story in a certain way. And if we choose to use our words to focus and our words of thought and our words of speech to focus on looking at the way that certain networks are covering this and the non-Jews are, that's going to shape our reality. It's going to be a very terrifying reality. But if we choose to use our words to create a reality of achdus, of coming together, of unity, of national unity, of Am Yisrael, of the times of Mashiach, of bringing more light into the world, that's the reality that we're going to live in. So it's so important to remember that the same way that in this parsha Hashem shaped and created the world through the exact letters of his speech and his song, that we should choose to shape our reality through our speech, right? How we speak, how we talk about this to ourselves and to our children, and what we listen to, the words we allow into our lives are going to actually affect the reality that we live in. We can have different people in different homes living different realities. So we have to make sure to shape our reality based on the way we want it to be, based on the light that there's found in this darkness, and not just focusing on the darkness. And I did that. I fell into that spiral for the first 2 days after this tragedy hit, and I was just like knee deep, hours deep into like the news and seeing who's responding and how people are covering it, and watching the videos of the news, and it was horrible for me. And then reposting it to make sure that everyone in the world sees what tragedies are happening here. And I said, like, that's insane. I don't have to spread this darkness. Instead, I'm going to spread all the light that's coming from it. Of course, to share the faces of those we lost, that's important. But we don't need to focus on sharing like who's covering it and who's not and how they're saying it. What we do need to focus on is choosing to see that in this darkness there's so much light. And then what shifted it for me was when I saw when I shared that Avi Plonka and Hillel Boym and Micah Smith, they came door to door, and for some reason that lifted me up so much. And I was like, I'm going to focus on this and all the good that's happening, and not focus on trying to like advocate for Israel and make sure everyone knows the terror of what's going on. people are doing that, that's fine. But I'd rather focus not on Sromei Ra, but on Asay Tov, right? We always want to focus on the
I'm
Asay Tov.
focusing on Mashiach coming.
Yeah, because to banish
now.
darkness there's so much darkness out there. We can't banish all of it. And like we say about Hanukkah, like the Hillel was saying, there's too much darkness to banish. We can't just start, like, if we would suck away the darkness, like the Golda Meir said, when you cut off the head of a monster, another head grows. There's just going to be darkness forever. But if you light one candle in the darkness, the darkness disappears on its own. So we just have to focus on lighting candles and banishing the darkness in that way by creating so much light that the darkness can't even exist in this space that we live in. So on the topic of light and darkness, that's the topic of today's shiur. All that was just an intro. The topic of today's shiur is about this phenomena called Or HaGanuz. That I'm going to summarize
What
it.
is HaGanuz?
Or HaGanuz is this topic that says, I'll tell you in a moment. Ganuz is hidden. It's actually a wine company. It means the hidden light. What's this hidden light? So if you look at the Torah, in the beginning Hashem created the heavens and the earth. Va'aretz haisa tohu vavohu. The world was chaos. V'choshech, and dark, right? Choshech al pnei tahom. There was darkness on top of tahom, on chaos, on emptiness, which is probably a lot of us feel right now. V'ruach Elokim merchefetz al pnei mayim. And the spirit of Hashem was hovering over the water. And then it says, Vayomer Elokim yehi or, right? And then Hashem said, let there be light, vayihi or. And then there was light. And then Hashem said, Vayar Elokim et ha'or, and Hashem saw that the or, he told that it's good, the light. And what did he do? Vayavdel Elokim ben or ben choshech. And he divided the light into light and dark, right? So everyone discusses, what light was this? Is this like, who was this light for? The whole point of light is to reveal something that's there. If there's nothing there, what is the light revealing? What are you looking at? If there's just blinding light, what is the purpose of this light? Why did Hashem make the light first? If there's nothing to see yet. Light is when you have a dark room and you turn it on and then you see the things, it illuminates things that you want to see. If there's nothing you want to see, you don't want there to be light. So what is there to see? Who was the light for anyways, if there was nothing to see? There's a lot of questions on why the light was created first and why the light and dark was created first. And one of the questions is also that where was this light coming from? The sun, moon, and stars were created on the fourth day. On Wednesday was the sun, moon, and stars. So what light was this, right? And who was the light for? There's no people to benefit from it. There's no animals to benefit from it. There's no plants. Even if you say that it was for the plants to grow, that only happened on the third day of creation, right? So the Zohar says this light is not the light from the sun that we know today. This light, the Zohar says, is a light that is so powerful that it was a spiritual light that allowed revelation. It was a light of revelation that allowed a person to see from one end of the world to the other end of the world, to see all of the workings of Hashem's creation. It was revelation. It allowed you to see Hashem's intention and plan and everything. It was a powerful light of revelation. And Hashem created this light on the first day after he saw that he created the world. There was darkness, there was chaos, there was choshech, tohu, vavohu. And then Hashem said, okay, I have to create light. And he created the light. And then what did he do? So fine. So that's the answer why it was not on who it was for. The light wasn't for to allow us to see something. It wasn't light that you see with your eyes. It was light that allows you to see deeper, to look deeper. It was a much more powerful light than the sun, moon, and stars. And therefore, Hashem made it on the first day. Why did Hashem make it on the first day? The Chassidus teaches that it was to show us the intention of the entire world. That Hashem wanted to show us an eclipse of how perfection of the world would look. That if you could see a perfect world, a world where you could see from one end of the world to the other, the intention of beginning of creation to the end of time, till Mashiach, it was a revelation of everything that's to be. Everything, all the questions that we have was revelation. And then, what did Hashem do with it? And that's why Hashem created it first, because that was the intention in creating the whole world. It was the light of Mashiach, the light that we see till the end of time. Not only that, if you look at the word of Ruach Elokim Merachefes al Pnei Aretz, the Zohar teaches us, or the Rizal teaches that Merachefes, the shorish is Rachaf, floating or hovering, has the same shorish as 288, which are the 208 falling sparks of Mashiach, and basically that Ruach Elokim Merachefes is Rucho Shel Mashiach. This is actually, Rashi brings this down, or from the Balaturim, or just the Balaturim, that when it says Ruach Elokim Merachefes al Pnei Mayim, that when there was chaos, Hashem created the light of the Ruach of Mashiach already in the beginning, as like to show us that what all this is for, right? There's a chaos, but all of the spirit of Mashiach, the end goal, was created from the very beginning. Thanks. Was created from the very beginning. So Hashem creates this light, this revelation from this darkness, and then what does he do? He hides it. The Zohar tells us that he took this light and that Hashem took. She said we should finish it. Yeah, if anyone wants it.
I'll split it with you.
Go on, sorry.
That's not. So the question is, the Zohar says that what did Hashem do with this light? Because we don't get to see from one end of the world to the other. We don't get to see revelation very much at all. Hashem took this light and hid it until Mashiach comes, till the end of days. So that was why he says, "Vayavdel Elokim ben Achoshech ben Or." He divided the light, he diminished the light, and what did he do? He hid it away for Mashiach to come, find, and reveal when Mashiach comes, right? That's the called Or HaGanuz. So when you have like a wine called Or HaGanuz, now you know that it's talking about this light that the Zohar speaks about, this light of Mashiach that Hashem made. Yeah. Right. And so it's talking about the light that was revealed in the beginning of creation, before man was even created, and then it was hidden. Now, Chassidus asks, what was the point of this? Why give us a light if you're going to take it away? What's the point of revealing light? No one's there to see it. Who's enjoying it? And then just hide it away, right? Why is this in the Torah? And that's really by Or, V'yomer Hashem V'hi Or, when that he created that light. It's not the light from the sun. It's the light of revelation, right? And then V'hi Choshech. And then Vayavdel Elokim ben Achoshech. He saw that the light is good, and then he hid it. Like, what? You saw that it's good, so you're like, let's put it away? Who does that, right? That's the question that we're going to, why create something in order to hide it? So when you go much deeper now, and Chassidus tells us that it's very, very deep fundamental ideas of Kabbalah and Chassidus, that first of all, he says that Or and Raz means the hiddenness, the secrets, or Raz is a secret, a sod, a hidden, a secret, have the same exact shorish. They're both 207. Or is 207 and Raz is 207. So the Zohar says that at its core, it seems like Hashem is taking away the light and creating darkness, but the truth is that light and darkness actually come from the exact same place. And from Hashem's perspective, they're no different at all. And they are actually two parts of one entity. And if you continue looking on, so first of all, sof maseh b'machshava tchila is what we say in Lechadodi, likra skala, right? Likra shaba l'chu v'nelcha, ki makor bracha. Sof maseh b'machshava tchila. That the end of your maisa is what you start. When you have, the first thing you do is the end goal. So what does this mean? Sof maisa, the last thing of your action, the last goal is b'machshava tchila, is what you intended first. That when you're creating a home, when you're building a house, when you're creating anything that you're creating, you first have in mind the end product that you have. If you don't have an end product in mind, when you're starting, you're not going to get the product that you want. When you start making a house, if you don't have an end product in mind, you're in big trouble. You're going to have to restart the whole house, build the pillars, right? So you always start with the end product in mind. So Hashem began creation with the end product, which is this light and revelation. But Hashem's end product wasn't that it's just revealed from the begin with, because Hashem's end product was that we attain it on our own. So Hashem showed us the end product, like the blueprint, said this is what it's going to look like, and now then he removed it so that we can then attain that on our own. So it was a glimpse for the world to see the end goal, and then all of us were able to somehow see it because our souls were all created already, and then removed it and said, now you get to that light on your own. Now that you saw what the goal is, you saw the light from the beginning of the world to the end, you saw this vision of Mashiach. We can all picture how Mashiach can look in a world full of revelation. Now I want you to get to that on your own. So now we get to this Vayavdel, Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, and we get to this crazy pattern in life that we see, that if we look at the first day of creation, Vayomer Elokim Yehi Or Vayhi Or, that's Pasuk Gimel, right? Because we had Bereishit Bara Elokim, Ruach Elokim Merech Efes Al Pnei Mayim. Pasuk 3 is Yehi Or, and then there was light. Pasuk Dalet said that Hashem saw the Or Kitov, Vayavdel Elokim and Or Ben Achoshech, and he divided it from light and dark. Why did Hashem have to create darkness at all? Why not just let us keep the world in light? Why even divide it and just let us stay in light all the time? And then it says Vayikra Elokim LaOr Yom, and then he called the light day. And the darkness he called dark, he called night. So this is Hashem created not the concept of light and dark, but Hashem creating the concept, not the concept of the light that we see and then dark when the lights are off, but the concept of night and day, of a deeper level of darkness and light. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker Yom Echad. Now these words are what teach us probably so much of what we need to know to get through these times, or so much strength that we can gather from these words. Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker Yom Echad. What does that teach us? Something crazy, that this pattern that Hashem created, that throughout the creation of the world and throughout the world until today, darkness always precedes light. And it's counterintuitive to say that. So first we see that darkness precedes light. When you look in the Torah and you see that first it said that the world was chaotic, darkness, and then Hashem saw there was darkness, and then what did he do? He said, okay, there's darkness, let's follow up that darkness with light. Right? When do we see this again? When Hashem created night and day, what comes first? Night always comes before day. Hashem didn't create day and then night. Hashem created a yom echad, a night and a day. First, and this really mirrors, our life mirrors the same thing. We're born into the world. The first thing that we're born into is chaos. We're born into shouting and chaos and turmoil. And then slowly we adjust to the darkness. We start to find light in this world until we can generate our own light as individuals and generate light to spread and to illuminate the world around us. We all start off with a world of darkness and then finding light and generating that light. And not only that, but even in our neshamas, we have two souls. We have a animal soul, a chaotic, which really comes from the world of Tohu, which is the soul of chaos, our soul that just wants everything that it sees and that is blinded by darkness and what it wants. And then we have a soul of light, the soul of our ruchanios, our godly soul. Which one do we receive first? Our animal soul. We learn from Kabbalah, if you watch the Tanya Shor, that when you're born, you only receive your animal soul, your chaotic soul, and only at your bar bat mitzvah do you receive your godly soul. You would start receiving it, you would have it, but it's not in your body fully until your bar bat mitzvah, and that's why you're not responsible to keep Torah mitzvahs, because how could you if you only have your animal soul? How could you be responsible? Only once you have the power to conquer your animal soul, to have more revelation. Darkness in this world always precedes light. Every time there's light and beauty and revelation, it's always preceded by a darkness or a struggle or a chaos before it that allowed for the light to emerge. And then in each day in the Jewish calendar, the day begins with darkness, with the night, and then the light on the next, afterwards the light that follows, which is very counterintuitive because when I'm in the evening tonight, I feel that tonight is not connected to tomorrow. It feels to me that the evening and the dark hours are connected to the day that just happened. It's a continuation of today. But the Torah tells us that's not actually how it works. The day begins from the night before in Judaism, which is very odd. The day begins from the darkness, from the night, and then it flows into a light. So every day in the Jewish calendar starts with So this is really the answer. So we have this pattern throughout creation that there's always darkness that precedes light. That from the beginning of Hashem making the world, even the tzimtzum and how our world was created, it says Hashem first removed his light. There was a vacuum, a tzimtzum of God's light, of emptiness, and then into that tzimtzum Hashem put in the orot and shot in the 6 sefirot, the 7 sefirot, the 10 sefirot of light into that dark vacuum. And the answer is to all of these questions that we have that Hashem tells us is that why couldn't we be born like, why is all light preceded by toil and struggle and by chaos? Why couldn't there just be light? Why couldn't we be born like Adam, like straight into perfection, like an angel? Why do we have to deal with all this chaos? And Hashem says, you're getting it wrong. Yom Echad. It's not that there's dark and there's light and there's two separate things. It's that Vayhi Erev, Vayhi Boker, Yom Echad. It's that each day is a single component of time that consists of both an Erev and a Boker, and this is Yom Echad, one day, one unit, one component of a dark night of mystery, of the subconscious, of going to the light that comes from a deeper place than revealed light, of going to a light that comes from a much deeper place, from digging into darkness, from finding in the darkness the light that's deep down, that's subconscious, that we have to go down into the layers of dreams and to the deeper layers that we can't see when it's light, to the stars that you can only see when it's dark, followed by the luminous daytime hours that are productive and revealing, hopefully. And this is Yom Echad. It's one single integral unit of time, and that's the basis for the entire creation of the world, for the fabric of how the world is created. It's a fluctuation of concealment and revelation in order that it's not only light, because the whole reason Hashem created our world it was that it's going to be a completely different world. And this actually segues into, I'm going to touch on a different topic that I'm going to do in a different shiur, but there's a different topic that speaks about Chava, a different crazy Hasidic idea that speaks about Chava eating from the tree of life, not as Hasidus says that on a deeper level. Obviously she sinned on the pshat level, but on a deeper level of Sod, she intentionally ate from the tree of life. And if you reread this, with the knowledge that Hashem made this world not just to have another world where there's all revelation, where they were existed in a world where Adam saw the purpose of everything. There was no bad created in the world. What? Right, the tree of knowledge, where there was the tree, the Eis Hadas Tovara, that Adam, Chava recognized. It says intuitively. It says that when Hashem created Chava from Adam, it says Vayiven, and he built her. And Kabbalah tells us that he created her Vayiven from Milashon Bina. He gave her more intuition. And Chava intuited and said, this is not what's supposed to be. Hashem created our world to have concealment and to have a world where we're an other, where you have free choice. Where is there free choice in this world when we just have another world of everyone serving God and seeing only light? There was only light in the beginning. There was only revelation. And Chava said, this is not the world that God intended us for. God intended us to have Tova Ra. And she said we have to eat from the tree of Tova Ra in order to truly have a world of dark and light, in order that we have the power on our own to overcome the darkness and to look in the darkness and create our own light and to search for the light inside the darkness. And so Chava said, I know Hashem wants us to eat from the tree. And why did Hashem just make them in the world of darkness to begin with? Because Hashem said, like looking around us now, I can't do that to you. That's something that you have to choose to do on your own, because the world of darkness is terrifying and it's full of things that we're terrifying things and darkness that Hashem said I could never choose that for you. I love you. I would never put you through that. I would never put you in that dark place on your own. But Chava said we're going to choose to go there because ultimately in that darkness is where we're going to get the greatest light. But Hashem says I can't send you there. You have to choose to go there on your own, because I can't be the one to choose that for you, right? You're going to have to be the one to choose that on your own if you want to choose that. Otherwise, what would have happened with Chava and Chava would have been continued. If they hadn't sinned, if they hadn't eaten from Tova Ra, there would be a world of just Tov. I have very little free choice because there's only revelation. The only difference, Chava said, between us and the angels that preceded this world of Hashem wanting to have a world where there's dark and light is that we're in bodies, but we still have all the revelation, only godliness, only goodness, no strife, no struggle, no turmoil, no darkness to overcome, no struggle to overcome, no earning this light on our own. And Chava intuited, it said, why did she give it to Adam? Adam, and if you look at this, I mean, this is a totally other shiur, but Adam, if you reread it this way, it's like Adam not saying, but my wife, I'm blaming my wife. He's saying, Hashem is saying, who told you that I wanted to eat from this tree? He says, who gave you from the fruit of the tree? And he's like, my amazing wife, like, she gave it to me. Like, Chava, she knew. She's the one who told me about it, right? And you could really reread it. And Hashem is saying, okay, great. Now you get to have a world of pain, not a punishment, but now is the world that I really intended. A world where you don't just get pregnant and have a baby. It's a world where there's struggle beforehand, where there's a lot of effort that goes in, and then you appreciate the product so much more than if it's just like a baby, right? Like the connection that we have as moms to our children is instant because of all of the investment and all of the struggle and all of the pain that we went through. So Hashem is saying it's not a punishment, Chava. I'm not punishing you. I'm just saying you chose to have a world where everything is not instant gratification, where there's darkness, and through that darkness we uncover a light that is way more powerful. The Or HaGanuz that comes from the darkness is way more powerful of a light that comes from the darkness than from a light that comes from light only itself. And it's hard to say this because I don't want to justify the pain in any way or make light of the pain of darkness and say that darkness isn't valid and that the pain and suffering we should just be like, yeah, it's truly light. No, the Rebbe taught that you should never tell someone who's suffering ever that there's a purpose to all this, that it's a plan from Hashem, that this is from Hashem, ever, right? That should never come from our mouth. That's something that person should come to on their own. That if they come to it on their own, that's fine. We should tell them there is no explanation for this, there's no excuse for this, there's no defense for this, and we have to and scream out to Hashem to fix this. That we can only scream out to this person that this is wrong and this is not okay, and Hashem needs to bring Mashiach now. But for ourselves, when we get to that space, we can on our own come to eventually see that, hopefully through the dark that we go through, we come to a light afterwards that is much greater. And to sum everything up towards the end, where it's brought, the teaching, that what we learn from this is that the light that so we go through a dark thing in our life and we're at the other side and something good comes from the darkness. If someone goes through a dark time and then losing their job, and I'm not going to say these crazy examples that are happening now because I don't even want to go there, but if somebody goes through a certain darkness in life, in the moment they feel they're breaking down, or they go through a divorce, they're breaking up their marriage, and then they come out the other side and they come to a better place and they look back and they see all of that they gained from that dark place that they were in, all of the light that came to them through that struggle. Once they look back, they can see then that even the darkness was also light and they wouldn't change it. Only afterwards, after you have the light at the end, after you can take from the darkness and turn it into a really great light, once the story ends in a happy ending, then you look back at the darkness and say, oh, that wasn't later. You can look back in the darkness and not look at it as darkness, but look at it as also part of the light, but only then. So that's why the Torah says that Boker, Choshech, Or to Hashem are the same thing, because he sees the end story, he sees the end goal. And when we have that revelation by Mashiach, that revelation of the light that comes after that darkness, then we're going to look back. It says Azimali Schok Pinu, right? We're going to look back at all of the chaos and all of that, and we're going to say Ayinu Kechomim. Now we can look back and be like, oh, that truly was good. When we can't see it now, we're not looking at it and saying it is good. But to have the hope and know that one day we're going to be on the other side, and even the darkness in our life will be something positive. We'll be able to see how that was also light. That gives us the chizuk and the hope. And the most strengthening thing is to know that the light is always preceded by chaos. So now we're in a time of so much chaos, of so much darkness, and to know that the right before the light is always the greatest darkness and the greatest chaos, right? The darkest part of night is like in the deepest part of night, all right? It's before the light comes. So to know that if we're experiencing this chaos now, the Rebbe calls it the birthing pangs of Mashiach. The heaviest pain of a mother giving birth is the most intense pain is right before the baby's emerging. And the Rebbe says that many places in the Torah that the Mashiach is like a baby being born. That the last throes of the pushing, right, of the active labor are the most intense, and that's a sign that we're about to have that revelation, because the greatest chaos comes right before that ultimate revelation. It's the end. It's like when you can't take any more. It's like I can't take any more. That's when the baby's born, and now we're in that end of stage of Galus where we're looking around and we can't take any more darkness. We can't take one more death of any human being. We can't take a death of a mother, of a child, of a loved one, of a son, of a parent. We can't have it anymore. We're at the end. It's like the end of labor, and it's like, don't worry, it's done now. We're at the end. The baby's coming, Mashiach's coming, and through the healing stage, hopefully we'll be able to look back, and we'll be able to look back and see that even the darkness was a precedent towards the light. Like after the baby's born, you're not looking back and saying, I wish that labor didn't happen. You hopefully eventually look back and look at it as like that miraculous day, right? Like that day you were born is the best day of my life. In that moment, it was the worst day of your life. But looking back at it, it's the best day of your life. So may we merit a time very, very, very soon when we can look back at this chaos and look back at this as the best days of our life. I don't know how that's possible, but hopefully we can look towards that and do everything we can now to be a part of be a part of elevating the last sparks of bringing the light to Usher and Mashiach through just focusing on what more light we can do and add into the world. And this whole balance of light and dark is really the theme of the entire Chomesh of Bereishit, but especially this parasha, the creation of the world of Vayihi Or, the Ma'oras HaGedolim, the two suns, the sun and the moon, who were both equal light, and then the moon diminished itself because it said the world we live in is where there's going to be darkness and then light, right? But ultimately, anyways, that's another topic. But we don't live. Yeah, we have to have another share, but we definitely don't live in a world where we get to see that or like Adam and Chava did, right? We learned through Kabbalah that we're continuing that journey that Adam and Chava chose to be in that world where there's concealment of Hashem's light, where there's a world of Vayichi Or, Vayichi Choshech, of Tov and Ra, of concealment, and the whole Kabbalah is based on the fact that we're doing Tikkun Adam and Chava and continuing their work, their journey here until the coming of Mashiach. We're all like a piece of a soul of Adam Kadmon, and we don't get to see the godliness revelation. We struggle usually to see. I struggle to find Hashem even in a moment in my day, right? Not only do I not see God every moment of the day from beginning to end, and see how like Adam Arishon saw Hashem so clearly. It says he was able to name each individual creation based on the light of God he saw flowing to their soul. And he was like, oh, you're sure. I see your light flowing to you in the form of a shin, of a vav, and a resh, whatever spiritual flows of light that is. And therefore you are sure. Not only do we not see that, we struggle even to find a moment where we could see God in our day. Our day is so full of chaos and coverings and tzimtzumim and that is the true beauty. When we could find one moment of our day, when we see Hashem, when we could part the darkness, that is the ultimate pleasure to Hashem. That's the ultimate oneness. And the true oneness is not when there's all light. And that's going back to why Hashem didn't only create light, because when Hashem created Adam and Chava first, he was lonely as one being. It says Adam was lonely. There was no other. There was no one to love. It's all me. If I married someone who was a clone of me, there is no relationship. There's no other. The whole beauty is when there is an other, when there is separation, and then we can unite. And then throughout the separation, we can find something common. We can find a space to love one another. Only after Adam and Chava were separated and distanced from that distance. So really, what I'm trying to say is that the theme is that a lot of times what seems like a veil or darkness is needed in order to have connection revelation. For like even the Or, it says that Adam and Chava put on their body the Or that they found, the leather, or it says was from the lashon of Or, from light. And clothing covers us, but it allows us to connect, because without clothing it would be so distracting. We wouldn't be able to really connect. It allows us to connect in a deeper way on our soul and not just based on our bodies. So many things conceal in order to reveal. And it's even if Hashem only had that light, there wouldn't even be beings. If there was just revelation of light, we wouldn't have a separate existence, because that concealment is for the purpose of togetherness, right? We said this about Adam and Chava being separate, or that need a separation in order to have togetherness, because there really can't be togetherness unless there's a separation first. If there's constant togetherness or oneness and no covering. For example, like it says that Hashem made the light of the sun, and there was no covering over it, and it would blind all of us, and we wouldn't be able to appreciate it. So the covering of Hashem's and this is, I wasn't going to talk about this today, but if anyone wants to hear this, It says in Tehillim, Ki Shemesh U'Magen Havaya Elokim, that there's two names of Hashem, Havaya and Elokim. Havaya is the name of Hashem that is light and revelation of Chesed, that's just light. But if Havaya was on its own, we would be blinded. We wouldn't even exist as an individual. We'd all be included in that light. In order for us to even see that light and not be blinded and die like at Har Sinai when Hashem had just revelation, Hashem covers His light out of the mercy. It says Hashem out of His mercy covers the light with Elokim, which is concealment, which is Gvura, which is the covering considered to Shemesh U'Magen, like a sun and a covering. Because you can't appreciate the light of the sun if you don't have a covering over the sun. If there's no ozone layer, the sun burns you, right? If there's no whatever scientific things there are covering the sun, it just burns you and you can't appreciate it. So sometimes to appreciate, for me to be able to teach you anything, I have to limit so much of it. So that covering, that limitation of everything I want to say allows me to impart something and allows me to be able to mean with something, right? I'm not saying that but I'm saying because I talk a lot. Anyway, so the hiddenness of Hashem truly is summarized by the pasuk Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. What we're saying according to Chassidus is that Hashem Elokeinu are both Hashem. Hashem is revelation. Elokim is din, is coverment, is darkness, is the veil that covers the revelation. But they're both Hashem. They both are actually from Hashem, because without they come part and part. We can't have a vaya without Elokim, because then we wouldn't be able to see anything. We would have nothing. We would be oneness. We wouldn't even have an other. We wouldn't have any existence at all. And when we think about, and that what we're truly saying when we say Shema, what we're supposed to meditate on is that the revelation in the world and the concealment in the world are both Elokim Echad, Hashem Echad. They're both Hashem. They're exactly the same thing. They're different parts of it. It's like my hand covering me, it's still me. There's no separation. I'm covering my eyes, but it's not separate from me. It's all me. So Hashem says, I am everything. I am Hashem and I'm Elokim. I'm making the concealment in order for you to be able to see the light. In order for you to have any light, there has to be a concealment, a tzimtzum of all the lights, so that you can find some light. Because if there's no concealment, do you understand that? Am I following or am I going in circles? Anyways, so that's really the core of being Am Yisrael, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. It's a reminder every time you say Shema that the revelation, the concealment are all both Hashem Himself, the Gvul and the Bli Gvul. So L'chaim, we merit a time when we can look back at this pain and see it as the birth pangs and be on the other side of this terrible darkness. Let us increase in the light as much as possible. Thank you so much for joining.
Also, it's so important every day.
Wait a second. Thank you so much for joining. If this video inspired you, please share it with your friends and family. Consider sponsoring one of the shiurim. Today's shiur is sponsored by Jody and Herman Brenner in the merit of all of us in Eretz Yisrael. They're in 5 towns and they're cheering us on from there. And if you'd like to sponsor shiur, there's a link below. I love you and appreciate all of you. Thanks for being here.